Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so let's get started. If we could start with roll call, please.
Supervisor Huss,
Present.
trustee Bradlow,
Present.
here, trustee King,
Here.
Highway Commissioner Smith,
Here.
trustee McNutt. Absent, I take it, Assessor Dyer
I'm here.
and trustee Thurman.
Here.
All right, everyone present except for.
Okay. Now we have the Pledge of Allegiance. So our most veteran trustee, Ms. King, will you lead us?
Okay, I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rich, they trained you well, man. You always go to.
Hand down and
The way it should be.
Okay, all right. I didn't know that just carried over.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, next is approval of the agenda. So had a chance to look that over. No modifications. Take a vote for that. That's a oral vote.
We'll look for a motion,
Oh,
yeah, in
okay.
a second, but yes, you're right, it's
Okay,
a voice vote.
we have a motion to approve the
So
agenda.
move.
Second.
This one, we're just gonna do everyone in favor. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Right. Next, we have public comment. Have we received any?
We have from Mr. Mark Charlotte.
Okay, so just typically, when you receive those, if you could advance them to me prior to the meeting. Thank you. Okay, all right. So it's not related to an agenda item?
No.
Okay,
Technical question, you do have lines. Are you permitted to speak on agenda items or not? The previous supervisor, there was a question about that, and Brad, this is a point of order before my comments. It has several lines. Can individuals speak on specific agenda items, or is it just during the public comment agenda item?
You could speak on any agenda item or non-agenda item.
Right, in other words, during my public comment, I can
Correct.
speak on anything, but I could address the bill paying if I want to speak on item F specifically.
Correct. Mr. Sharvat, public comment would be your opportunity to speak to anything that is or isn't on the agenda
Right.
during the actual board actions contemplated on the agenda. Public comment isn't per se allowed unless
That's why I
recognized.
suggested that they change that form just to indicate public comment, because it implies you can speak on it. And I know other governmental bodies allow you to speak on agenda items, so if you don't, just make that clear. Okay, let's start my 3 minutes now. My comments have to do specifically with transparency. I've always been a huge advocate of transparency. There used to be a lot more transparency when it came to the township as far as making information available. Now, we may not always agree or disagree on certain issues, but most people say they're in favor of transparency and making information accessible to the public. Prior to last year, information was included on the township website. This particular board packet that I'm holding up right now, I was rather surprised to actually see this in print. The board packet used to be published on the website, and I was told before, or Mary pointed out on the phone to me today, that the information is, we don't have space for this before. There was a resolution passed that I have a question about as far as whether it said get rid of all the old material or to keep information available for a year or two. This year and last year was my impression. I attended that meeting. I don't recall anything being passed saying that we're going to eliminate previous board packets and future board packets. I was under the impression that when this board said we're going to kind of streamline what goes out on our website, that it was going to keep the current stuff and get rid of stuff from a few years ago. So having this available to the public, first off, would save all this paper costs. I mean, there are several copies, and you were able to Karen was able to throw an email to me. It was easily includable as an attachment in an email, so it can't take up that much web space for a PDF document of 30 pages. The county makes their stuff available, their board packets available. The city does, other townships. It doesn't require a lot of space. Now, I can understand videos. If you store them on a server, it's going to take up a lot of space. Now, I've suggested to our new clerk here to perhaps start up a YouTube channel where you don't have, the storage space is not yours, it goes through their servers, where these videos that are recorded through Zoom can be put out there for the public to see. The township does a lot of good things, but the public doesn't know about it. They don't get to see what goes on at these meetings. Having that information on a YouTube channel or some sort of stream where people can access things would be great for the township. For example, this packet itself has information on an Eagle project that the public is not going to see. They don't see this because you are not making this available on the website. Why would you not want to promote something positive?
Apparently you haven't been on the website.
What's that? I don't see it as part of the board packet. The board packets are missing, Mary. And you guys, I think, need to reverse that decision to allow the public access to this. Of course, there's financials on there. There's information the public needs to know. I don't really enjoy bugging Karen, who has, I'm sure, a lot better things to do than to process my
Your
FOIA
3
requests.
minutes are up,
So
so
I would like to
thank
see
you.
that information made available along with videos of
Thank
these
you. Your 3
meetings.
minutes is up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, we have reports. Supervisor's report. So included in your packet that you received tonight are the pictures of the Eagle Scout project that were completed at Oakwood Cemetery by Kevin Malone. That happened earlier this year. I think on June 6th. And so there's before and after pictures. In the past, a different scout had installed the split wood fence from along one length of the property boundaries. And so to finish that project off, Kevin took that on as his project. And so if you are going to Oakwood Cemetery, which is located behind, is that the Methodist?
First Congregational Church.
First Congregational Church, across from Clinton Rosette. When you pull into the drive, the new split rail fence is on your left-hand side. So just wanted to point out that he did that project. It's my understanding that we've worked with scouts several times over the years to complete various projects on township property, and that's certainly a practice we want to continue and even grow. So any questions about that project? No? Okay. Also in your board packet are FOIA requests that we have received. That's something that as we receive FOIA requests, we'll be including those in your packet so that you're aware of the information that's being sought out from the public. Following up from the last meeting, DCEDC, they're going to come and do a presentation at the August meeting to talk about our involvement with them and our financial support, what that gets us. They want to also talk about some of the projects they're doing. They are talking with, they didn't disclose who they're talking to, but they're talking with new companies, trying to attract more companies to this area. So they're going to come do a presentation so they can answer all of our questions. All new elected officials have been registered for the boot camp training. That was with something we talked about last time. And so I registered everyone, this is through Township Officials of Illinois. I registered everyone for the August 12th event. But August 26th is an option too. If you need to change it, that can easily be done. I do believe that it'll be recorded too. If you can't get away because these are weekdays, then you can probably participate in it. It just won't be a live session. So you should be receiving an email from them with instructions how to log on and everything that day, as well as there'll probably be packets of information with some of the presentations. And if you want us to print those in advance and get them to you, let us know and Karen and I can do that. Last month, we talked about the bus stop. So if you look across the street there, The sign has been installed. As I said, the city was really great to work with. It just took one phone call and they started the process. So we're sharing that with people who are calling to apply for assistance if they have transportation barriers, that we have that bus stop now. Other news, the new phone and email systems have been installed. And you all should have an envelope at your spot that has your new logins and any questions that you have about the email system, especially if you install it on your cell phones, that there's a certain manual setup that has to be done for that. And so those instructions are available to you. This past month, the auditor was here to start collecting information for this year's audit. So I want to let you know that that process has started. On July 1st, the social service grant applications that
Excuse me.
they opened on July 1st, close on July 31st. That application is included in your board packet so that you can see the information that we're asking for. I am seeking a trustee to serve on the grants committee to help review these applications and determine who we're going to fund and the funding amounts. It shouldn't be real labor intensive, probably take a couple of evenings to do that. So if you would just consider doing that, I can only have one trustee because of Open Meetings Act. So if anyone's interested and they want to talk to me after the meeting about that, and then we can set up some times for us to get together and go over those after they come in on the 31st. And then that'll come to the full board for a vote after we decide who we're going to recommend. So we do the social service grants. The city does community development block grants and human service funding. And so I called Joanne Rouse with the city who runs those programs and suggested that we get together to discuss collaborating on this, because if it's taxpayer dollars going toward funding for social service programs in our community, I felt that it's really important that we understand what the city's funding and the city understands what we're funding. So we're not directing more resources to one particular agency and leaving others out. This is something that they do in the city of Urbana and Cunningham Township. And so we were able to learn a lot from them. I talked to the township supervisor of Cunningham Township. Joanne talked to the person who runs it at the city of Urbana, and it has helped them grow their funding sources. And like I said, make sure it's more evenly distributed. So we're talking about that right now, collecting information that will eventually, if it looks like it's something that is a win-win situation for the township and the city, that's something that'll come back to the board for approval on how we want to proceed with that. Any questions about that?
Does the
Or I
city
have-
have an abundance of money to?
So they receive federal funds to do the community development block grants. That's federally
Okay.
funded program. And there's some pretty strict parameters around what that money can be used for. But then human service funding comes out of their general fund. And that's something they've been doing for years.
Okay.
And so this is, just an opportunity for us to, assess what the needs of the community are, and then make sure that our funds are going towards services that meet the needs of the residents of the township and the city.
Right. Well, I asked because the city always says, oh, we don't have any money. Oh, we don't
Yeah.
have any money. Oh, we can't do that because we don't have any money.
Yeah.
So I'm
This is
wondering-
something that's been in their budget for years.
Okay. And it doesn't come from them. So
It doesn't come from what?
it doesn't come from them. It's a grant. It's like
The
a,
community, they have two pots. They have the community development block grant, and
right,
that's federal funded.
right.
And then they have human service fund, which comes out of their general fund. So that's something the city does, same as us, to support residents, low-income residents,
Okay.
to make sure that their needs are being met. or helping meet some of their needs.
Okay.
Did you add anything to that?
No, I think you said it very well.
So I'll be coming back with more information on that. Our Facebook page, you may have noticed we actually have 2 Facebook pages. And so this wasn't something that we discussed at the last meeting, but I want to make sure that you're all aware of it. So the original, I'll call it the original Facebook page, has, I don't know, between 600 and 700 likes and people following it. That was created by a former supervisor. And we don't have access. We don't have the password to get into that. And so no one can be made an administrator. So in the meantime, we have created a second Facebook page where, you know, we are posting some things, but we don't want to use it too much because of the fact that we have this original one. So thankfully, I was able to find out that Facebook has a government liaison. And so we can work with that person. They help in situations like this when there was a transfer of,
Authority.
and there's, difficulty accessing things. So information, I reached out to them. They required several documents from me. And so I sent those to them. They replied this week that they're working on it. So we're hoping that this can be resolved relatively soon. And we can just go back to our original Facebook page because it has, a historical perspective of things that the township has done. So, and then to prevent this from happening in the future, we're going to make sure that our township Facebook account is not tied to an individual's Facebook account, but we've created a township, like a personal page that, is under, it doesn't say DeKalb Township, it says another name, that will be the holder of our government page.
Is the former owner of the page like not working?
I have reached out to that individual on several occasions and I'm not able to make any advancements.
Okay.
So,
Would that be a good place for us to post like videos and those documents? Because that's free storage.
right. Yeah, we can use it for a lot of
Things.
things and, to share what we're doing and so forth. But unfortunately, I'm hopeful that Facebook is going to help us resolve this issue because I don't want to start over when we have that much capacity built in the existing page.
And there may not be an existing mechanism to redirect people to the new page if you can't post something there.
Right, yeah, we can't post anything there.
Right.
Yeah, and we can't even take it down.
Right. And the last thing we need is more confusion.
Right. Yeah, there's no, I don't want to have, and then there's a Facebook page that was created years ago by a community member, from my understanding, who had an issue with something that went on with the township. So they created a pseudo DeKalb Township page that, we'll work on getting that one taken down too, because it's not something that we maintain.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. I'm going to pass this around. A couple of weeks ago, went to Wheeling Township to shadow the Director of General Assistance for the day to learn more about how they operate their general assistance program. There's really not an educational unit within township officials of Illinois who can teach me about general assistance. So I'm left to figuring out myself. And so by going and talking with more experienced people, that's what I'm doing at this point, asking how they operate their general assistance program, the forms they use and so forth, because I believe that we need to streamline our process. I think it's overly complex right now. And so, we still have to operate within the township code of what we have to do for general assistance, but I believe we can streamline it so we're not having such duplication of information that we're asking for people when they come to apply, especially, when people are in crisis and coming, it's a very burdensome thing. So anyway, they shared with me a newsletter that they do 4 times a year, where each elected official has a corner of the newsletter or a page of the newsletter to share information. And this is mailed to all township residents. And so, they said they've gotten really positive feedback about it. And so I just wanted to share it with all of you, and we can, you can go ahead and think about this and think about, how you think it would be received, and we can revisit it at a future meeting. And Craig and Rich have already seen it. You all received an email regarding the Open Meetings Act training. As you know, the Kwame Raoul's website is still down, and they're not offering that mandated Open Meetings Act training. And so I reached out to Brad and asked for an alternative, even though they're not requiring it by elected officials. I think it's in everyone's best interest to go through that training. So Brad, if you want to talk about that. And
I think I read someplace that it is back online.
I checked
I
last
could
week.
be
and
mistaken, but
I checked last week and it wasn't.
If it is this week, I may not know that either, but yeah, certainly it hadn't been. But if you did receive that link, the statute actually was amended for Open Meetings Act training that allows the Illinois Municipal League to provide a training that qualifies for the certification of the completion of that course. I did see that Supervisor has distributed that, and I'm thinking in particular of our newly elected trustees.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, it's as simple as clicking on the link that was attached to that email. It'll take you to what would be like a PowerPoint presentation, after which you view the PowerPoint, you can click on the certificate of completion, print it, and then submit it to Clerk Tillotson.
So if you could have that completed by August 17th, we're still going to follow that 90-day requirement. So if you could complete it, and you could, save it as a PDF, the certificate of completion, and then email it to Andrew, that'd be great. And then if you have any questions after you complete that training, we can get you in touch with Brad, and he can help clarify anything that you might have questions about.
And if I may say, Clerk Tillotson, that would apply to you as well.
I have one on file.
Okay.
Okay. I also want to let you know that I've been approached about serving on some boards. So I will be serving on Family Service Agency Board, which I think will be a great value to us because we work closely with them for the General Assistance Program. And so it's going to help me be more knowledgeable about the services they offer. And then also I'll be sitting in on the EDC, the DeKalb County Economic Development Committee. I'll be sitting in on their board meetings just to stay current on what's going on with them and for what's going on in our community for economic development. Emergency assistance. So I know we haven't, for our new board members, we haven't talked a lot about the programs we offer for general assistance and emergency assistance. I'd be happy to sit down with you individually to share more information about that. But emergency assistance is just that. It's when someone in our community is an emergency. There's two specific reasons that a person can be granted emergency assistance. And that's if they're facing a life-threatening situation like eviction or utility disconnect, or if there's some sort of barrier that is preventing them from becoming self-sufficient or self-sufficiency related to work. And so our amount was historically has been at for that grant amount when a person applies for emergency assistance, and if they're eligible, that amount was at $350. According to the Emergency Assistance Handbook, the grant amount should be able to alleviate a life-threatening situation. So the DeKalb County Housing Authority recently did a housing study, and we have a lot of data from that. And so the average rental rent price in DeKalb County is anywhere from $919 to $1,036. And then the average utility per month, so water, gas, and electric each is $81. So our amount of $350 was not able to help anyone out of a life-threatening situation. And so we're going to, August 1st, we're going to increase that amount. It's based on how many individuals are living in the household. So that for one individual, the payment amount will be up to $995. They need to supply documentation like their 5-day eviction or their 5-day notice or a utility disconnect. And our payment amount is paid directly to the vendor. So whether it be the landlord or ComEd or NICOR, or the city of DeKalb, we only pay what is due. We don't give them the full $995, only what is due.
What if it's more than that?
Then, well, we also require them to go to like Salvation Army and St. Vincent de Paul or LIHEAP. And, they're responsible to try to get funds outside of the township. And so we can contribute toward, whatever situation it is, but we cannot exceed for one individual $995. Now, for each household member, that will go up. So you get to a household of 2 members and that goes up to $1,095. So it's going to be dependent on how many members are in the household. But we just recognize that we were not able to help people out of a situation with such a low amount.
I get that. I was just thinking, if my rent is $1,000,
Mhm.
That's nice. I don't know all that the other agencies provide for.
Yeah, they will also, provide on a case-by-case basis, determine how much they will provide. And that's why we work closely with Salvation Army and St. Vincent de Paul to make sure that we're all working toward helping an individual get out of those situations.
And you should probably, it's only once a year that they can
Yes.
file for this. So it's a one-time deal. So,
Right.
I don't know about you, but I couldn't feed my family for a month for $350. So,
About, on average, how many applicants do you have for that?
Well, so they apply and they're technically applying for general assistance and they have to be found ineligible for general assistance. There's a lot of qualifying factors. And when they're found ineligible for general assistance, then we can see if they're eligible for emergency assistance. So it's a process that I'm still learning a lot about. If there's a time that, you could come in and sit down with Erica and I, she's more of a expert on it than I am. But I just, I know that we weren't meeting people's needs with that amount. And that's why I look to change that. And so this will not require board approval. That's why I'm in it. And so I'm making this change start August 1st. So, ideally what we'd like to have you do is fill out an application for, all of you fill out an application for general assistance. And as if you were going through the process and.
only if I can be the one to deny them.
Experience what, community members experience when they apply for it. And that's why we're trying to streamline it because it is pretty complicated right now.
Yeah, I've talked to some community members that have applied, and it's not
Not an easy process.
well, nor is it has it necessarily been a pleasant experience from time to time. And so we've had some conversations. I mean, it just takes.
Yeah. So we're looking to modernize the system and make it a little more user-friendly.
Can I ask, how did you get to that total, like that 9 something?
So the DeKalb County Housing Authority did a housing study in 2020 and it was released this year. And in that, they broke down DeKalb County. They studied what the average rent is in each part of DeKalb County. And then you were able to extrapolate what DeKalb Township's average rent was.
Mhm.
And so we took the lowest and highest and found the middle ground.
Okay.
And that's what we went with for to start with one individual. And then we added the utilities, average of $81 for utilities a month.
So when you say one individual, is that like a one bedroom?
No, one individual is in the household. And then when you get two individuals in the household, the grant rate goes up. When you get three individuals, it jumps up more. Because we understand that a efficiency unit would be a lower price than a two-bedroom.
Right,
So that's why we increased that grant amount to accommodate for the size of the family.
okay. Okay,
May I add one thing to that, Supervisor Hess? I think this is really good progress. I think one of the challenges, we sat down, a few of us, to review really the budgetary process and the fact that every year there's a significant amount of emergency assistance funding that's been earmarked by the township year after year, which really has been
Not used at all. I mean, just literally not touched.
heavily underutilized is how I describe that. And that then creates an issue for us because we're carrying forward funds that we're not using, but we don't want to not
right,
help people who need the help.
right,
So this is hopefully less of a bar to entry, because I think the other challenge is who's going to go through the process for $300 and some dollars.
yeah, yeah.
You know, if
yeah.
you need $1,000 and all that, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, if you're successful, is
Right,
not even what enough.
yeah, yeah, oh, yeah, I know people that are just thought,
At least sufficient enough to keep you in your home for another 30 days.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
yeah.
And we are starting to see an uptick in the number of people applying for general assistance and emergency assistance as we're coming out of the pandemic.
Okay.
So I think we have a responsibility to this community to try to prevent homelessness. And we, you know, that's ultimately what I'm trying to do.
I
Yeah,
think as of July 1st, I mean, you gotta get your August 1st, you gotta get your utilities paid up to date and rent and all that good stuff.
The eviction moratorium runs out, I believe, the end of this month.
July.
Correct. And there's still some carrying forward exceptions for persons with disabilities, for example, but yes, generally that's the moratorium.
And that's gonna be a little over the top for people, because if you haven't been working, suddenly you gotta pay everything that you owe.
Well, luckily, there's been a lot of state and federal help if people took the initiative to apply for it.
Yeah, well, and that presumes, again, you know, some literacy and understanding and some support.
Yeah.
Which is always the challenge.
Yeah.
And access.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so hopefully, you know, the state
Yeah.
and federal support provides some assistance.
Right.
To help people,
Right,
to access it, as Dale mentioned,
right.
because, you know,
Yeah, well, I know that we have promoted the current, there's a current resource with Illinois Department of Housing Authority, IDHA.
yeah,
And so when people are coming to us for, you know, emergency assistance, we're sharing that information with them and letting them know that we have a public computer here, you know, that they can
Good.
use.
and the bus stop, so that.
And we have a bus stop, right?
That makes a big difference.
Yeah, hey,
A big difference.
I grew up-
Transportation down at this end of town has been a struggle over the years here, you know.
yeah,
And VAC does not, it used to service us a lot more frequently than it has in the near future or the near past. I mean, they was nothing. I know Rich will say this, 5 years ago, VAC was here 6-7 times a day.
mm,
Now we're lucky to see them once a week or once every 2 weeks, you know. Now numbers are way
Don't
down.
seem to run anymore, I don't think.
Well, the VAC busing does, the Husky, but
Oh, okay.
unless I'm unaware, I've seen them around. The VAC will transport people, but they're more. We used to be able to call and request them more, and they just kind of stopped doing a lot of that, so.
We need to rebuild relationships with some different organizations in the community, and that will,
Yeah.
something I'll be working on over.
The third ward alderman of DeKalb is someone you need to discuss that with the VAC, because I think he would be willing to work through that problem. So
Yeah.
he's also my oldest brother.
well, that's good to know.
Well, and it helps that I volunteer for Meals on Wheels, so.
Not too sure the people getting the food thinks that way, but.
So just, I wanted to make you aware of that if you're talking to any community members that are facing, you know, eviction or, you know, are behind on their rent.
Landlords.
Yeah, or landlords that, you know, that are struggling with tenants who are doing that, we're going to be a more valuable resource come August 1st.
Okay, well, there are landlords that the tenants are struggling. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's no secret.
Right.
I was having a conversation with somebody about assistance and what that meant here. And, the person was kind of livid about it. And I was like, well, you have to bring those ideas. So, in Chicago, they have, I think it started out talking about parking. And their situation, or not their situation, but the situation that they hear is somebody doesn't live there, but they're visiting, or maybe they're spending the night.
Mhm.
I won't say they every night,
Mhm.
but they are. But some places you can't park all the time. You gotta get up and move the car, and that happens in some places in Chicago. Give me just a minute. As you all, I don't know, you all know I have trigeminal neuralgia. It's been a problem. So today, this is my first little episode though, so I'm glad. I met with the neurologist and we upped the meds, so let's hope. Anyway, we were talking about, like, Chicago has transient housing, which gives people some sense of groundedness in the community.
Mhm.
But it's not, I guess they can't afford regular housing, but they're gonna be here, like maybe sometimes for people who work at Nestle or something. So we talked about that. And I said to the person, well, you need to go maybe sit down and talk with the supervisor, because those are things that DeKalb hasn't done.
Mhm.
Maybe the need hasn't been there, but now maybe the need exists to do that.
Right.
And that might be another way to not just expend some of the funds, but also make some provisions for people that are having tough times.
Right.
So it's just a thought, it's just an idea.
No, one of my goals is to do a community needs assessment
Oh, okay.
so that we can really target our money, our funding to resources that are most needed by our residents. And so it's a learning process for that. We need to be able to do it in a way that's efficient yet effective.
Right.
And so hopefully that'll be something that, or maybe we're collaborating with other agencies in doing this. That the hospital does one, the health department does one. And so we might be able to just, add some additional questions to something that they're doing that, lines up with what we can fund, what's allowed under the Illinois Township Code, what we're allowed to fund. Because, well, it would be nice to know what all the needs of the community are. We need to be concerned with the things that we can legally fund.
Yeah, well, and it's because you mentioned collaborating with the city, I would think that might be something.
Yes.
And I don't know who funds that in Chicago, and they're not every place. I mean, the one that I know of, excuse me, it is actually kind of in an upscale neighborhood. Like, I wouldn't know that this is transient housing.
Mhm.
But that may be something that the city and the
Right.
township
Right.
could do to collaborate.
Yep.
And I don't know what the need is for that. I just know that that's a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing some buildings go up, and I know that those rents are like $1,300, and
Yeah.
like, that's not going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. All right, I'm almost done, I swear. One of the events we want to do for the general public is start holding shredding days. And so we're looking to have a shredding day in the fall. We've picked out 4 dates that are potential. And I'm gonna throw these dates out at you because we'd love to have board participation in it. So the 4 dates are September 18th, September 25th, October 16th, and October 23rd. So if there's any dates that that you cannot participate in, then, we can eliminate that. That's why we picked 4, hoping to accommodate, participation from all of us. Got it? Okay. So this will be, we work with the shredding company already. And so they would send out Pro Shred is who we work with. So they would send out a truck and some personnel, and Craig has agreed to clear out one of the wings of the garage so that people can drive into it. We limit that they can only be like 1 or 2 boxes, you know, you can't have a semi-load. And we would remove it from their vehicle. And then the shredding company would take it from there. It would last 2 hours. We're also going to collect eyeglasses, hearing aids, and potentially some other things like keys and key fobs and ink cartridges to donate to the Lions Club. And then we're also going to collect cell phones for the Cell Phones for Soldiers program that we have. So this is something we'd like to do quarterly. And
Or see what the need is. You know, we're fortunate here with the addition on the shop that it's more of a less a drive-through. So you don't have to pull in, back out, and people running over each other. You can come in one end and go right out the other. So if rain or shine, we can do this. We can bring the shredder truck in the building as well. We have access across the shop. I think it's something it's something that'll serve the community, especially with all these other things. And, you know, we have a forklift. We can, you know, if we get big crates of stuff that we have to move, I think it'll really, you know, and then we're gonna see, you know, if 2 hours is enough. You know, I remember when the county used to do it out by the nursing home, you know, they'd have lines out onto the road, you know. I don't know if it was just shredding or if it was,
Electronic recycling.
it could have been that as well, you know, so I mean, a lot of that stuff that is, you know, the city did it for a while down across from the old city hall, but that's kind of gone by the wayside. But I think it's a need for the community. You know, I can tell you firsthand how many TVs and things we find in our ditches now that a lot of that's gone away,
Wow.
you know, so, and that's turned into a real issue, you know, and when I say TVs, we probably collect every bit of 400 TVs a year and probably every bit of 1,000 tires.
Oh, wow.
I went to the county recycling thing a few weekends ago, and it was out at the airport in 40 minutes. I waited in line
Mhm.
to get there. So the shredding thing is one of hopefully many services we're going to start to offer to residents. You know, our emergency assistance and general assistance and our social service grants cater to our more disadvantaged populations. We also want to make sure that we're serving our general, you know, population in this community, that, you know, because everyone's a taxpayer, with services that, you know, fulfill their needs too. So this is one where Craig and I are talking about some others that we could collaborate on between the township and the road district. And so please, if you have any suggestions for things that we should consider, please let us know.
I've heard people talk about the trash. I guess the way it used to be, you could sit some stuff out, like you could break your pool table down and sit it outside. And now you can't. I guess you have to register.
I know like electronics, they do the first pickup of the month.
And they take one large item per pickup.
And
I mean, I think this waste, it's not waste management, it's like,
or
sure,
recycling.
I think they're pretty accommodating. If you go onto the city's website and read about everything
Yeah,
they'll take,
contacting them, I think is your initial step, and
Yeah.
they will walk you right through that.
I just arranged for a,
I just hear the
no
people's
hazard pickup.
complaints, so that's all.
well, people complain, but maybe haven't done the research
Okay.
to, you know, so, but you know, if there is truly something that, that you can't do through the city, then that's definitely something we would consider doing.
Yeah, I found the policies about collection really liberal. I mean.
Yeah, I think they've done a better job really than waste management with some of this stuff, so.
Yeah, I just had arranged for a chemical pickup, and, you know, they delivered this yellow bag that I put everything in and left it on my driveway, and, you know, there was.
You
list
running
of
a meth
allowable-
lab in your basement? Curious, so.
Some stuff from my mom's house, you know, like paint and,
Oh, yeah.
you know, weed killer and stuff like that. You don't want to throw in the garbage. So it was a really positive experience.
Okay, well, I still rent, but
Oh.
I have friends that have houses.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I hate them. They wouldn't even take my, so
Yeah.
I would
Did
tell them,
rip the power cord out of my house, so,
oh,
Oh, that was a wonderful experience, I'm sure.
yeah, that was fun.
But
Wow.
yeah, when they can't take something, I can't remember what I put out, but they actually left a note explaining why they couldn't take it and what the collection date was on and stuff. And I thought that was pretty.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Okay, well, it's good to hear both sides. I didn't know. I wouldn't know. I just dump it in the
They
dumpster.
actually, I think they take more than Waste Management did though, because they
Yeah.
would always tag my stuff like, we can't take this and the new place, what is that called?
Lakeshore.
Like short, yeah, they'll allow you to put out one big item a week,
Mhm.
like furniture or.
Okay.
So, yeah, if there are, if you go online and look at things that other townships are doing, and you're like, hey, that, might be valuable here, please, by all means, let's talk about those things and try to better serve our residents. And then lastly, Craig and I are going to a cemetery training at the end of the month to probably for me to learn more about cemetery maintenance than Craig.
I'm
And
never too old to learn.
Mhm.
so we'll, if there's anything real valuable from that, we'll come back and share that at the next meeting. Any questions about all that information I just shared?
It was overwhelming.
I know, but my question, I wouldn't mind assisting with the grant. I'll like to raise my hand first.
Okay, okay, great. Well, thank you. All right, I'll be in touch then.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
one of the email, I checked my email, but I didn't get the email about the OMA.
Oh, the training.
Yeah.
You'll get that directly from TOI. That
No.
might not have come yet.
When I sent,
Oh, I'm sorry.
did you receive it?
I thought I received one in my regular email,
Oh,
not the.
it should be in your township email.
Yeah, I checked my township email. I haven't seen it.
So I have the copy of what I sent, right? Oh.
That could have been too.
Yeah, I sent it to you on Tuesday, June 29th. But you got it.
Yeah.
You guys got it.
Maybe I overlooked it somehow. Okay.
I know in the past, and I don't know why it's been.
I can make copies of this.
In previous years, we've had trustees have had issues getting their emails. It's been a thing around here. I don't know why that is. But yeah, we can ask Mike to make sure that he's got our IT guy. He's pretty handy about making sure that stuff clicks along or whatever.
But I'll make a copy of this tonight and give it to you guys so that you have it.
Well, that would be perfect. Thank you.
Anything else?
Well, it sounds like you've been busy at work, so that's good.
I'm exhausted
Always
now.
good, yeah.
Hey, trust me, you think you're stressed out. I gotta be here every day with you.
It's good to hear, you've been.
I want you guys to be informed, so.
Making stuff happen that makes the township better, so that's always good.
Makes me feel like I'm on a winning team. Thank you, Mary.
All right, so clerk's report. Andrew?
Lovely, yeah, I just wanted to update everyone on where we're at on making our meetings, publicly available. As Shawna has mentioned, Mary and I have been working on creating a YouTube account where we host, the proceedings of the public portions of our meetings. After contacting YouTube to see if we could get the old channel that, the sort of AWOL people from last time wants to be for whatever reason. They seemed to think that it would just make the most sense for us to make a new YouTube account from scratch. Frankly, the old YouTube account for the township really has any followers, and they didn't think it would be worth the effort to pursue accessing that one. So by next meeting, I plan to have a YouTube account working, and what will happen is it'll be live streaming the meeting proceedings, public session, of course. And then it will store those recordings for the future. So if someone wants to, see what happened 2 months ago, they simply go to the YouTube channel, go to the archives, click on the video, and that video should be there in its entirety. That way too, people that want, because currently we have a lot of people using Zoom, kind of zoom in and watch what's happening. They can also simply watch a YouTube video live as well. So it would have a lot of advantages, and I think would be a great piece of outreach to make our meeting proceedings open to as many people as possible.
And they store those as well, Andrew? So people can go and find previous meetings on it?
Yeah, absolutely. So instead of just being able to stream it in the moment, they should have an archive of all of our things, and we obviously don't have to buy what would be a lot of server space because YouTube is pretty lenient on those things. We just have to make sure to stay standing, no one play copyrighted music during meetings, please. Other problems that shouldn't come up, so.
It's like NIU graduations, they put them, they're all online.
Really?
Yeah, so you can
I
always.
have to quit swearing.
Anything else?
I believe that'll be it.
All right, thank you.
Our next one.
Highway Commissioner?
Just a few things. Our road projects went very well this year. Got some emails back, on our contracted paving projects, turned out really well. So, we're doing a lot of the work on ditches and kind of forming our shoulders back up, as they add to the road to get that gravel on the side. And, we're about a little over halfway done, and it's probably, according to engineers' estimate costs, we're gonna save taxpayers somewhere about $75,000 by us doing it in-house and not having it tagged to that contract. So I think that's a big plus, and so kudos to my guys with a little bit of guidance and a lot of screaming. We're getting that accomplished. The front door thing, so we're still under full mask here right now during business hours. So we've decided, I think the three of us, Rich and Mary and myself, have all talked that it's time to get rid of that. And, we're gonna do like every grocery store and everybody else around, that we're just gonna go to, people can during work or business hours here, it's kind of the honor system like at the grocery store. If you're vaccinated, come on in, but if you wear a mask if needed. So that's gonna start is first thing tomorrow morning. So
Are you all accounting for that new variant though, with regard?
well, and that's kind of if that comes back and we see that guidelines are kind of restricted again, we're gonna go right back to full mask. I'm not into getting any employee or ourselves, whether vaccinated or not. I would hate to see that, anything happen to any of the employees here.
And that's actually what he's talking about is an agenda item under new business. And so Brad's gonna explain a little bit
And
more about like that variance and what we would do in that case.
But I think for the public, City Hall is open in DeKalb now, all the county facilities are open in that same nature. I think we've kind of drug our feet on that long enough that, and we're starting to see more people,
Will you have?
And if it-
masks?
Yes, masks are still available for anyone and for any of the employees here. So, and the shields are all gonna stay up, in certain areas. So Mary got the shields for the GA staff to work in the open office now. So, and Karen's will stay up, those might stay forever, the way it's going. So I can't say one way or the other. So that's kind of that. On the recycling note, going along with what Mary said, I'm starting the process in August of purchasing a plow truck to replace a 2012 truck. We're on a 10-year cycle. It takes almost a year to 18 months from the time you say, okay, let's go, to the time you get it here. From whether it's the manufacturer making the cab and chassis and then the build. With that being said, I'm looking into we have a small truck here that does that. So what it would do is be able to pick up multiple boxes similar to like a disposal company with the big dumpsters. What that's going to provide to the community is, and I brought this up for years, that I would love to start a landscape waste recycling here on site, to where people that used to in this community be able to bring their grass clippings, tree branches, anything you get out of your yard, put in a dumpster, and then we would take it out. And it would go to the DeKalb County landfill or waste management where their compost pile is, that's a significant cost. That way of building a truck as to a regular dump plow truck. But I think everything I've heard from the community is they're just would love to see that back here. So, and it's something we can afford to do. So I'll know more probably September, October, as I move forward on that and see if, how much it's gonna cost and whether it's something we can afford.
It would be scheduled drop-offs, right?
Yes, it'll be more of a scheduled thing, during working hours. And then maybe, like do a Saturday or Sunday where I or one of my staff would be here during those times. Otherwise, the gate would be closed and it would be off limits. And set an arrangement up with the DeKalb, the police department that, people will be prosecuted for dumping on our land, and not in the dumpsters, or whether we find someone else, a retired person or something to do the Saturdays. So, because I'm not big on overtime, but, so that's kind of where that's all at. And the other thing I'll pass out an email. I'm kind of tooting my own horn. I received this from a gentleman out on Twombly Road, or I'm sorry, on Gurler Road. One of our constituents that had an issue with a trenching company that we provided a permit for to do some installation work and they damaged his yard. So I went out and if you don't mind passing them on around and brought this all together and just basically made it clear to them that they needed to do some reimbursing and things of that nature. So, and he was nice enough to, I think that was back around the 1st of June. And those companies are getting more and more with Facebook coming in and everything's going underground. So we are in the process of starting a new permitting. It is under my authority to charge for those, which we will start doing probably by September. Karen's done a fabulous job doing my trucking permits. And these are going to be more of a mixture of both of us. But it will be, there's going to have to be, it's a minimal charge, but what it is, like for this instance, this resident, I think I had to go out there and meet with different people anywhere from, he works till 4:30 at night. So I'd be out there 6, 7 o'clock, probably 6 or 7 different times with the utility company to get this resolved. And so there's going to be, it shouldn't be left up to the taxpayers of this township to pay for that service. It should be left up to the utility companies for all of that. So we're kind of revamping that. And so I thought that was a very nice note. And I think on that, I'm all done. So. The only thing I got is the assessment workbooks have been turned in. So that's the biggie for me for the year. So now it's training and getting caught up with everything else and doing some finalizing with changes that happen in between now and fall. That's about all I got. And your new seat right here front and center, which I think is just great. This is gonna have to be revisited.
All right, trustees reports. Dale, want to start with you?
I have nothing.
Okay.
I was actually gonna bring up the Facebook page because after our last meeting, I went and looked it up just so I could share things and whatnot. And then I was all confused, but then I ended up finding the second one. So I was gonna ask what the deal was with that. And like, I definitely think Facebook needs to be utilized. Like that's
Sure.
everyone's on
We
Facebook.
agree.
Everyone looks at Facebook.
Right.
So
It's been a
all the
great-
positive things that happen.
Right. It's been a great communication tool, but right now we're just in that kind of strange situation. And so hopefully by, the August meeting, I can say that it's been resolved.
And like I say, if we go through the effort of getting it organized and straightened out, maybe there may be even a place that we can put the video. So we have just a one-stop shop. So we want to find YouTube and Facebook.
Well, just put a link on it.
And
Yeah,
then-
I definitely could share the link to the video on the Facebook page after it's uploaded. That wouldn't be a problem. So but that is a very good point. We definitely should have those synced.
Anything else?
Still is low-key the
No,
maintenance
that's
man.
it.
Lisa?
Just a little bit, in the city, Larry Apperson was the head of the HRC. And he is, stepping down.
Is that the Human Relations Commission?
Yes.
Okay.
It is the Human Relations Commission. I'm sorry for people that didn't know. And Joe Gastiker is stepping up to fill that role. JJ Wett, I don't know, do you all know JJ? He's also gonna be a member. He just put that on his Facebook page, actually.
Yeah, I saw the
He's gonna
city
be a
council.
member of the Human Relations Commission.
And you're
Um,
still on that committee?
I am still there.
Commission.
Yeah. You know, da, 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 da. I'm loving it. Let me see. The mayor came to our last meeting, of course, when Larry was leaving. And it was a good meeting. I think we do some good work on that commission. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but it's good. The students are gonna come back soon, and we're gonna have the surveillance for students and for staff. I don't know, are you all doing surveillance testing, or are you gonna talk about that later? Here? No? Okay, you don't know what that is?
No, I have absolutely.
It's like randomly testing people to see if they are positive or not, because you can be positive with COVID and not display symptoms, which means that you could spread it. So the university is doing that for students and for staff, unless you have your card that says, you know, I took the vaccine.
Mhm.
So, or an exemption, I guess there's a religious exemption and there's a medical exemption, yeah, because I had a medical exemption until recently, and now I can go get that. I think that that's it, other than the talk about the transient housing and the needs of people that are part of the community, but we wouldn't ever connect with because they don't really feel a part of the community.
We may not know they are part of the community.
Well, yeah, because they're not traditional community members.
Mhm.
Like they live here, but they're not necessarily on somebody's lease. For 1,000 reasons why, which is what's good about transit housing, because it allows you to account for people that are living in your community
Mhm.
who maybe can't be counted in other places.
Mhm.
And so I think, you know, personally, that's a good idea. But, you know, it's just something to think about.
When you say transient housing, it makes me think of the like original intent of YMCA's.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all I know is in Chicago, they have some buildings that are like one room, you know, like people that's not, I don't know who lives there. I don't know.
Short-term apartment type.
I guess so, yeah. And I know in Kansas, if you rent, but if you get a house, you can break your lease. That's one of the reasons to break your lease, because you buy a house, because you're becoming a more connected, stable person in the community. So,
That's really interesting.
That is interesting.
yeah, well, that's to promote home ownership,
Mhm.
right? And
Just talk to
so,
the mayor about
okay, I will.
that. I think that's a brilliant idea.
I do too. Actually, I think that's a really good idea.
Okay, well, I guess the people in Kansas started to, you know, we're not in Kansas anymore, but we, was-
There's Dorothy, but you know.
yeah.
So.
But the thing about breaking a lease, you can always break your lease. There's a penalty to it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, in Kansas, it's not. It's they want
For that.
because they want to promote. Right. I mean, in the middle of the month, you don't get your money back, but you don't owe the following month either because you got a house.
Get that security deposit back or.
I don't even know if you
What's the
do,
last month
but you got a house, so you made a commitment to
Purchase the
the
home,
community.
you probably get to drop your lease or not get locked to your lease.
Right. Yeah. So,
I kind of agree to that.
I know.
well, I'm glad I could bring something to the table that everybody.
That's probably, would have to be a statewide. That would almost be more of a Jeff Kiker type thing than a.
Well, or even if you went to Darrow with it and got landlords to agree to it.
Good luck with that one.
I know.
Well, you know what?
But,
You
Optimism.
know what? Pitsley, Mike, who's the guy that sells the snowmobiles? Or the little trucks? Bill Heinisch?
Oh, okay.
Ray, Ray,
Yeah.
Will Heinisch.
Will, yeah, and Dara, is that the lady?
No, Darrow's the group.
The organization.
Okay, well, the lady from Gideon's Court kind of had a small subcommittee on the HRC to really talk about tenant relations.
Mhm.
And so one of the things they did is kind of run some stuff past the dialogue group, and I guess they're part of the dialogue group.
Mhm.
So they do work together and they do work on projects a little bit outside of what they normally
I
would.
completely agree, and Will Heiner's probably one of the more level-headed when it comes to thinking outside the box type
Oh, okay,
than a lot of them, I guess.
Okay.
That's all I would say.
okay.
So yeah, I would recommend that you,
Okay, well, I didn't even think about it. Yeah, I will. So I'll talk to Cohen about that.
anything else?
No, just that students are coming back and if all
Enrollment up or down?
is, well, that's always a mystery question, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Now.
They predicted it'll be up and this year we have new IDs for the students and it's, the IDs actually, there's a nationwide mandate that you have to have a number for mental health services on ID, so the students will have those.
Good.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
well, that's good, yeah. You know what, I don't know if, Dale said they're predicting that it's gonna be up. I think they predict every year. And I, well, both, they predict based on the hope. I think
Don't they do a count on like a certain day, 45 days?
10 days.
Okay.
Oh, 10 day.
10 day, but I think you don't actually know, like orientation is still in progress. And so you don't really know who's coming until
Month from
they
now.
come.
Right, right.
Right. I don't know if the numbers are up for orientation or down. And like I said, I've been doing what I need to do at work and I've not been probably fully engaged because I've been trying to manage my health. I got arthritis and then I got the trigeminal, and anybody who's had trigeminal, you don't even want it. So I can't tell you. I don't know the answer to that question.
Well,
And that 10-day number will impact the university's ability to hire new employees.
Mhm.
So
okay.
they're looking at that because I don't think they call it the hiring freeze, the frost or whatever they call it. Like
Chill. We're in a chill.
Chill, that's what they.
Chill right now.
Well, we'll wait in anticipation of what that number is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's tough with orientation.
Right.
Because just because people pay for orientation doesn't mean they're going to come to orientation or the university.
Exactly.
It just means that at the time it seemed like a good idea.
Let's check this place out kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, well, and I always say, for better or for worse, Chicago, I think people underestimated Chicago because years ago, Chicago wasn't really competitive. And now Chicago is very competitive.
Mhm.
And a lot of the young people whose parents went to school here and work here, their kids go to school in Chicago. They go to USC, they go to DeKalb. So,
Roosevelt, yeah.
right, I think that's a little telling.
Mhm.
But,
All right.
let me add one thing. I shared it with the HRC. I just want to share it with the township. I am glad to live in the township, especially when I look at Chicago with all of the violence and the things that occur. I mean, there are a lot of things culturally that I don't get from DeKalb,
Mhm.
but I think there are a lot of things culturally a lot of people don't get. But there's some other things that I need every day, like peace of mind and some comfort. Although I did hear that there's, Sycamore had some incidents with some cars.
Mhm.
But so I just want to say that it's good to live in a township that is, peaceful, and I don't have to worry about some of the things that I would have to worry about living in Chicago.
Right.
And so I said it at the HRC, so I just want to say it here because I don't know if people take it for granted, but I don't, because I didn't grow up here, so
Yeah,
I don't take it for granted.
definitely have a different perspective.
Ooh,
Thank you. All right, moving on to bill paying. So in your packet is the June audit report and the July bills to pay. So I'm looking for someone to make an motion to approve the June audit report and July bills to pay in the amount of $130,658.38.
so move.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Supervisor House,
Yes.
Trustee Bradlow,
Yes.
Trustee King,
Yes,
uh, trustee Thurman,
Yes.
and
That's it. McNabb's not here.
trustee McNabb is absent. Okay, thank you. That is 4 yeses, 1 absence. And so the motion passed. Okay. Now moving on.
Okay, next we have looking for a motion to receive, file, and approve the treasurer's June budget report that's in your packets. We have a motion to receive, file, and approve the June budget report.
So move.
Okay. Motion made by trustee Thurman, second,
Second, I got a question on,
by King. Okay, discussion?
who's the treasurer? Did you say the treasurer?
It's, yeah, I technically am the treasurer.
Oh, okay, all right. I just
That's
never
what it's
heard it
called, the
before. I'm like,
treasurer's-
treasurer?
yeah. Yep. So that's, yes. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Hess,
Yes.
trustee Redlow,
Yes.
King,
Yes,
trustee McNabb is absent again, and then trustee Thurman.
Yes.
Okay. There's nothing on the agenda under unfinished business, so we'll move to new business. Next is approval of the June meeting minutes. We have a motion to approve the June minutes.
I move to approve the June minutes.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and second that. Roll call, please, or discussion? No discussion? Okay, roll call?
Supervisor Hess,
Yes.
trustee King,
yes,
trustee Redlow,
Yes.
trustee is absent, and the trustee,
Yes.
thank you,
Thank you.
passes 4 yes.
Okay. Next is discussion and possible action to modify the township's COVID-19 policy to mirror applicable state or federal requirements. Craig has touched on this, and so we just want to have a more formal discussion. And Attorney Stewart, if you could kind of lead us into this.
Sure, Supervisor Hess. Good evening, Board again. Just want to, the discussions we've had in recent weeks with the elected employees on this subject, I think as Commissioner Smith has pointed out correctly, you can't go into a store or anywhere these days that pretty much without, seeing that the mask requirement is basically just for those who have not been vaccinated, and it's really the honor system in doing that. I think certainly the gist I have heard from the people I've talked to within the township on the subject is to try to transition into not requiring the mask for just a general requirement in the workplace. You'll recall the last couple of months, we went from an original phase of certain face covering requirements to loosening that a month ago. And now I think the thought is to basically just go with whatever state or federal requirements are in place, so that we would just be mirroring what is required of all businesses or all operations of public accommodation in terms of whatever that policy is. I appreciate Trustee King, you raised the point of there's a new variant. There's some statistics indicating that actually COVID is increasing again in the state of Illinois, at least. If you choose to formally just have our policy be a mirror of the state or federal requirements, if the state of Illinois issues another emergency order, if the Illinois Department of Public Health or some federal agency issues requirements, we would automatically then just be subject to whatever those are without necessarily trying to predict or anticipate what's going to happen next. And I think the idea is that's the simplest approach. if there is a need at any time in the future for the township to reconsider putting in more restrictive measures, you would always have the discretion to do that. That could always be considered, but without really knowing something specific, the suggestion at this point would be to just mirror whatever requirements are in effect, or if there are none, that means none.
What about the local agency? Like what is it, the DeKalb?
Health Department?
Yeah, what if they say, hey, the numbers are high in DeKalb?
I think they follow what IDPH does.
Well, no question, but I think the numbers, if the numbers are high here before they are someplace else, and they made us aware of that, I would think that we would have some obligation or at least some responsibility to pay attention to that.
Yeah, agreed. If it's happening right here in our own
Yeah.
county, you know, and the DeKalb County Health Department can only recommend,
Right.
to my
Right.
knowledge. So, and that's why I say, when I brought up about the front door, you know, that I'm kind of following what the county's doing. You know, because once the health department, the DeKalb County Health Department says, close your doors, or you must wear a mask to be in that building. That's what we're gonna do here.
Okay,
So
okay.
is kind of where we're at. And then in that same time frame, we're gonna then implement this COVID policy back into place as we've been doing here recently, you know.
Well, I asked because I think this says federal and state, and I think that's what Brad said. So I'm good with whatever. You know, I've been going to the hospital and everybody's going on. In fact, they give you a new one here, you need to change. And I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And I haven't taken the vaccine yet. I plan to. But my concern is just if it goes up in a local area and the feds or the state, you know, I'm sure they'll hear about it eventually.
Yeah.
But if we know,
Well, I think that's why he's saying follow the county's lead.
Right.
That puts us in a position.
And I think,
where-
yeah, and that's what I've been tracking, what the county has been doing and the city, and then with the city as well. And I think they've both been very responsible, and where we've been the last ones to open this building up kind of on the honor system as Brad spoke. You know, we are, it's mandatory. You come in this building, you have to have a mask on during business hours right now.
right?
And I've been weighing on this. Me and Rich and Mary have been discussing this for a few weeks now. That, you know, but I wanted all of us, you know, to have input on this before we move forward on this. But I just think it's hard to be the only place in the area that's still requiring this as everything's loosening up. I'm, you know, and being that this building is the road district's, you know, I have, you know, full authority to close her down once again, like I did before. And we were on the first that I said, absolutely no one in this building, you know.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm not,
Hesitate to do that.
oh, I'm concerned. I'm not here every day, right? But I know that you all have staffs and you're here and people in the public come. And I asked the same question for the university. For people that come in that building that aren't tested regularly, that aren't students, what do we do to protect ourselves? And we can wear masks if we desire, and we can have them wear masks if we know, like if I know you're not a student. So I know you don't have a little card where you tested. I can't test, you know, take the time to look up everybody in the whole nation.
And understandable. And that's why we go by this honor system, and that's really the only thing anybody can do now, you know. Because, you know, whether you're at Schnucks over here at the grocery store or, you know, in a gas station or wherever in town,
Yeah.
that I've been, you know, hardly anybody is wearing masks, you know.
But that's why we're gonna keep the safeguards in place for the staff of having
Right.
the.
The shields and things
shields,
up where,
So that there is a barrier between.
And they have an option, right, if they want to wear a mask.
oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. I think I may wear one at work for something.
And we're gonna change the sign too, that, you know, please, you know, use your own discretion type of mask
Yeah,
or
like
system
all-
for the mask, or,
Right,
you know.
all the other places.
I just might add, it's not as a requirement, but that you have some kind of, I don't know if you all are looking at vaccination cards, or if you all are gonna do some surveillance testing. And you got a bigger staff than everybody else, so
You know,
It's a thought.
personally enough, and I'm probably the one, because I'm the one going back and forth between my staff and the front of this building. And I'm vaccinated, I'll say that, you know, so I don't, that hasn't, and I've never tested positive as well, so. And I had staff members test positive this last winter, God help me, but, so that's where I've always kind of leaned on the side of caution around here, you know. It was hard and fast that I locked this place down and said no one comes in at all other than employees, you know, and again, I won't hesitate to do that again.
Do you all do any kind of gathering of vaccination cards?
No.
Okay, do you?
I don't even know if we can legally ask, I don't know.
It's what?
I think it's against the Constitution too.
Well, I don't think it is. They're doing it at the school.
HIPAA violation, I think.
Yeah, they're doing it at NIU. So,
No. Yeah.
so,
I mean, there's, you know, I understand people have strong opinions on the subject. I mean, just on the legal side, it's been generally upheld that an employer can require as much as requiring vaccinations of its employees, short of the medical or religious exemptions. They can require proof of vaccination status if they choose.
right.
I will mention, if I hope I'm not divulging something too much when I say this, but I am certainly aware that within the township's employees, there's particular sensitivity to any attempt to seek information about vaccination status, just for what that's worth. I'm not saying that dictates policy, but there certainly is a sensitivity, I think is a way to say that.
Yeah, and we are respecting, you know, people's right to that
Their privacy.
privacy. And so the honor system that's implemented throughout the rest of the state is something that we feel, you know, has worked other places and are, you know, that's why we're continuing to have the protection for all staff members so that everyone's safeguarded.
See, and we can't, you know, and Brad, please speak up if I'm wrong about this. We can't stop people. This is a publicly owned building. We can't ask people coming through the door.
No, I didn't mean people that were coming through the door. I meant people that work here. Were you asking about their status? That's all. Not even saying, if they say, no, I didn't, you know,
As part
I'm
of the
good.
policy, I will say that.
Not as part of the.
Well, as part of the COVID policy, each one of us have that information of our staff.
Okay,
And so we are aware of whether our staff was tested or not, or I'm
Okay.
sorry, vaccinated or not.
okay.
That stays between each one of.
Hey, listen, I'm good with that. I just think that perhaps, one, for clarity, because Karen thought it was against the Constitution, and it's not. And two, I just think it's a responsible position for people to know. And it's not an infringement on somebody's rights. It's not a control
Right.
thing. It is really saying that COVID is serious. People die from it. And the more information we have, the better off we are, as well as the public that we interact with.
Yeah.
And I know that people differ with, you know, with my rights versus whatever. And I'm talking, for me, it's as basic as life and death. And I just think it's important. And I happen to work for an institution that collects that information. And I think it's fair. I just think it's fair.
I just,
I don't need to know, though.
I mean, trust me, and.
Yeah, I don't even want to know.
I think Mary will both say that the decision on taking those signs off that front door, I've weighed on that for the last 30 days, you know, whether we just stick to everyone wears a mask in this building. But then, you know, as I travel from one end of this township to the other multiple times a day and
Right.
in and out of all kinds of places. And, you know, right now, today, I don't think it's a necessity.
I got
You
you.
know, at the 4 o'clock news, when I went home and got changed for this meeting, they announced that the northwest corner of this state, the closest to the state of Missouri, that has got very lax regulations,
Mhm.
is their numbers are way up in
Yep.
Illinois. If those numbers start going up here, then we're gonna readdress that and readdress it really quickly.
That's why we're gonna mirror I'm sorry.
The DeKalb County vaccination rate was about 47 or something like that percent, so it's not quite 50%. And we can just assume that that's, about the 1 out of every 2 people are vaccinated. And like Brad was saying earlier, we can't predict what the state or the federal government are gonna do. We just have to be prepared to be able to switch
Make those
the line.
That pivot thing, yeah, I'm good. I just, I think my view is, I think we're still in a pandemic. I think we've not left it, we're not post-pandemic.
Mhm.
And so I operate from that perspective. And,
As well.
my dad died last year. I don't know if it was COVID or not, but I've also known quite a few people to die, and I would imagine everybody does. So I just don't take it lightly.
Right.
And I don't, again, my position is not to say everybody should have it. I'm just gonna ask the questions that I'm curious about.
Yeah.
And hopefully, people will respond and it's not a problem.
So Brad, if we want, because we said take possible action, do we just,
So it's very much open to the board to make a motion if it wishes to do what's more or less stated there, to adopt federal or state requirements as the COVID policy going forward.
okay?
That would be an appropriate motion if that's the desire of the board. If we want to tweak it, I'm sorry, trustee.
Just for clarification, is it state or federal? Do we pick one or the other?
It could say state and or.
Okay, so
And-
just for clarification on that. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Announces first,
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of the gist of it, or?
Oh, do we go with the most stringent of the two or the most relaxed of the two? Or we can do it like that. What's the most stringent, state or federal?
well, right, and if it's an applicable, this may be worth discussing further, so thank you for opening that topic. All the actual restrictions that we're familiar with that had been in place for the past, 15 months, 16, I guess now, right? But our state.
Right.
The federal agencies, I mean, with limited exceptions, the CDC was issuing
Guidelines,
guidelines.
exactly.
They were not mandated requirements on any state or businesses. They left that really to the state level to do that. That being said, there is always the possibility that the federal government could dictate that there be a national mandate on some requirement. So that's why we even reference the federal there. More likely than not, there won't be federal requirements so much as there will be state requirements if we start going back into a heightened phase of COVID regulation. So the motion could be both state and federal with the more restrictive to apply. But that would also be assumed, because if we're subject to them, we're going to be subject to them. Did that answer your question?
Oh, yeah, it does. I just wanted to make sure it's clear because sometimes I just want, I don't know, because we can always hang out in this conversation and it can come up again next month. I'll just try to resolve it for the longest
Yeah.
term possible.
Right.
We visited this for 3 months now.
Right.
And unfortunately, at the June meeting was the day they transitioned to the next, was it bridge phase or phase?
Right.
And
Right.
so we were, on the cusp of getting out of one, entering another. So we just took the time to take an additional 4 weeks to assess the situation and get to this point.
And I'm just concerned about citizens, if people want to come here, they should have a clear idea before they come in about what policies we're gonna follow here, and it'll make it easy for everyone. So if that's not, and if we change it next week, someone may not change, check on it. So I just said, let's have something for that we can anticipate that will survive the longest. So I motioned that we follow the most stringent state or either federal guidelines concerning the COVID-19 policy.
Okay, so you're making a motion that we modify the township's COVID-19 policy to mirror the most restrictive state or federal requirements?
Correct.
Okay. So Dale made that motion.
I'll second.
second with Nancy Bradlow. Any discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Trustee King?
Yes, I agree.
Uh,
Yes, I think it's a yes.
trustee Absent. Trustee Berman,
Yes.
trustee Bradlow,
Yes.
Supervisor Hess.
Yes,
4 yeses and 1 absence. Motion passes.
thank you. Okay, and then the last item for new business is discussion of format of future meetings. So it's my understanding from history that prior to COVID and the governor having orders, our meetings took place entirely in person. There was no electronic viewing option offered, correct?
Very true.
Okay, so then COVID happened and Zoom became a everyday household feature,
Necessity.
a necessity, and we are out of those governor's orders now. And so for June and July, we have continued, we've modified how we use Zoom. So it used to be that we had public participation through Zoom. Now we are just on the view feature. Is that correct, Karen?
We just don't have anybody viewing, so, I mean, we don't have any attendees.
Oh, right now we don't.
Right.
Right, but we're,
We could have.
right, as a convenience to the public, we have continued to offer Zoom, just change the mode of how we're using it so that we can't see who's participating. We can't allow them to do public comment through Zoom. They have to be here and present for that. So I'm just looking for some direction on how you want to proceed beyond tonight's meeting of broadcasting them, recording them, making them public and so forth. Anything that I forgot?
No, I think that's it. I mean, the legal requirements are actually very open to what option this board chooses to do. There's no outside of the Zoom, or I should say, outside of the COVID meeting requirements where remote participation was required. There is no inherent verbatim audio or video recording requirement under the Open Meetings Act. So we could choose to go right back to where we were pre-COVID, which is in-person meetings only. There's no need to even take an audio recording, although for minutes purposes, it's, I know, challenging to not have that. And you'll see a variety across the state in terms of agencies and what they choose to do. So there isn't a legal right or wrong answer. It's really a policy. And you as the elected officials are the people tasked with setting that policy of how much we want to do. I would just say part of there are technical challenges, of course, with video recording, live participation, posting, what remains available for how long, data storage considerations that go with that too. So I don't mean to pretend there's an obvious or, yes or no answer or anything like that. I think it really is discretionary.
And we were talking about mediums earlier, including Facebook and YouTube, and there's not a mechanism to have a participation like you have in Zoom where someone can chime in like that. So,
I was actually looking into this. There are multiple ways we can do this. We're doing affirmative research. We can also have a Zoom meeting where people can enter that live streams to our Facebook as the Zoom meeting is in progress. And that way people could either join the Zoom, pop in and actually be able to talk to us and participate. Potentially, if we wanted them to, we can also mute them and just have them watch. It's up to our discretion. Right, but also be live streaming directly to that Facebook account. We could sync the two. And that's another option if we did not want to do YouTube.
I found this an experience is it's always more efficient if you have a one-stop shop for that thing. You can send people to two different places or some type of confusion. If we can make it simpler for the constituents to always say we will always be here. So I think that's really important. So if we go to a tool, what I'm trying to say is either we stick with Zoom or nothing. That's what I was saying for video. Because that seems like to be the best mechanism, and that doesn't represent a change for what people have already experienced. So if we go over to YouTube or something, that's a change for them. And then, you know, some people perceive that as a way that trying to hide something or you're moving someone. Just for perception's sake, let's keep it the way it is. That's why I feel until it changes, and then we go from video to no video, and that should be in sync with the federal or state guidelines that we follow. And we can say something, so if we get to level 5 or something like that, whatever they had at the highest level, then we just cut off the video at that point, and then that takes all of the guesswork out of it. And
So you're advocating for what?
so
I want to make sure I'm clear.
I'm not saying I'm just arbitrary. The level 5 was like, the most open area. At that point, we said we had level 5. Again, I think we're about to sink back to level 4 or 3 or something like that. We could say if we get to level 5 or 6, I don't even know what that is that the point where we stop the video and,
Well, it could be, trustee Thurman, to answer the question, phase 5 of the Restore Illinois plan is where we currently are.
right.
And that's where, for example, even our notice of tonight's meeting included the reference to having reached phase 5, including the lifting of the face mask mandate for vaccinated individuals. We've technically left the phase where we had to do anything with the Zoom meetings. We've already reached that point, assuming we don't regress, and you raise a good point. We could at any point, right? So there isn't a legal requirement right now that we have any Zoom or video recording or access to the board meetings.
And that's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah.
When we cross the legal threshold, that's when we can do it. And I think that makes it is clear for us. When we cross the legal threshold, we go back and forth, and then they say we're back to Zoom, then we do it. And if it's not legally required, let's not do it. I mean, that's just my opinion on that.
Okay.
Could I say a few words on the subject? So my feeling on this as the clerk that will be the one recording it and things too, and as just an active member of the community, I think that we should definitely keep in mind how much easier it makes these meetings to be able to, how much easier recording the meetings makes it for others to participate in these meetings, whether you don't have, a car or a means to get here reliably. There are a myriad of reasons why recording the meeting, regardless of any legal requirements, would make us more accessible, frankly. And as someone that is very much in that tech world, I do feel confident that I could upkeep everything there to a degree where it would not be an issue. I know that I'm obviously not a voting member of this body, right? And it is to all of your discretion. But I think it is a wonderful service to keep that going. But I do see your point about YouTube and making it a little bit different. I think we could just hook, you can hook Zoom directly up to Facebook. And then have the recordings of the Zoom meeting exist on our Facebook and bypass YouTube entirely.
I'm not a voter member either, but I agree with him completely.
You agree with who?
Andrew,
Okay.
as long as it can be out there for the public, transparency wise, as Mr. Scharbat said earlier, why not? Have it out there.
Mhm.
We're here. If people want to watch this boring stuff, more power to them.
Boring?
I'm all for just have it out there. We're
I think
here.
it definitely should be out there for people to view because a lot is, and I actually I like the Zoom being added to the Facebook more than I like YouTube, just because YouTube's all over the place. But I feel like a lot of people that would have no clue of what's going on in our township might stumble upon it if it's on Facebook. So.
I agree, as well. I think, it's
Yeah.
2021. I think, and the city of DeKalb's been doing, televising their council meetings for 20 years now. I think it started in late 80s.
That's 40 years.
Sorry, yeah, but I think it's time. Whether they have interaction with us via Zoom, I don't know how I feel about that. But I also think about, handicapped folks and stuff that may not be able to get out of their homes,
The archive.
yeah.
Right.
So, and I just think it's easier.
I agree. I like the ability to broadcast our meetings. That's what the city's doing. That's what the school district's doing. So we'd be consistent with that. I'm not in favor of public participation through the meetings because I think it's just could be too disruptive. If there's someone who wants to make a public comment, I think being here is important in case we want to do dialogue. And we've invested in this technology and,
It's hard to shut it, yeah.
So just for clarification, there's two different things between capture and streaming. I was referring to the streaming aspect of it. I don't mind us capturing it and posting it somewhere, but to stream it puts a lot of requirement on us to make sure that, it goes well, that we put it there. But if you can record it and then post it, that's a different set of requirements. And I deal with that at the university all the time, telling the professor whether they can stream or lecture capture.
Okay.
That's a big thing.
You're getting a little too technical.
Oh, yeah.
So it sounds like that maybe we could come back at the next meeting. That we're talking about, we have two different things we're talking about. We're talking about streaming live
Right.
or recording it and then making it available.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so how do you suggest we proceed?
We could probably just straw poll the trustees.
Okay.
Just if they have a particular preference, because that might guide how to kind of take the next step in terms of formalizing.
Okay,
I'd be,
can we do, we
We could
don't,
do that now. It's part
We
of our
can do-
discussion.
okay.
I mean, and this isn't a binding vote. It's more just to give you and us direction as to how to fulfill the board's will.
okay, so we're gonna call streaming, which is the live viewing, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then we're going to have a recorded upload, okay.
And could I suggest there may be a third dimension of that too,
Okay.
which is whether public comment, if there was live streaming, would be allowed remotely as opposed to.
And that's what I was trying to go, because some of the meetings we're talking about, while you can't intervene, you can't type a message and then we have to say, I guess we could turn it off, but you have to say whether those are available. If we just post it as a matter of record, and then we can always revisit it again, whether we want to stream it.
Right.
But there's some additional requirements. If the network goes down, then we can stream it, then what happens here? But we can always record and
The city
upload.
encountered that recently.
Exactly, and that's
And as far as a public comment, I know Karen and I have talked about this. If we're doing it through Zoom and someone types something in, someone has to be monitoring that.
exactly.
And this is Karen's last meeting of being here. And I think it'd be very challenging for Andrew to take minutes and also monitor that. And so that's, why,
And read it as well, and to go through that whole process. We did that for a little while, if I remember with
during COVID.
yes, where people could send in, and that might be even a better option is to put it on the agenda. If you're able to make it here, you're more than welcome to send your public comment, to the supervisor or to the clerk to read during public comment time, to give them that access point here rather than have them, here as we're trying to process through everything that's going on. I think that's might be a better way. They can send an email, regular mail or however, carrier pigeon for all I care, but
I just think just as long as we're clear with, don't send a dissertation, right? It's still 3 minutes.
right.
But who's?
Well, but my thinking is, it's important to be clear about those parameters,
Right.
so that people know, so that they.
But if I talk like this and I talk really fast, then I could get a lot more in 3 minutes than if I talk like at a normal pace. So who's to judge what 3 minutes
And
is?
we could take video submission, when people have a cell phone can videotape it and
Yeah.
send it in.
More in favor of that.
I-
So,
Well, I don't know about how fast or slow people talk, but I'm sure that we could find some kind of reasonable measure that lets people know
Yeah.
whatever, if you're gonna read it, then we're gonna go at your pace. So they need to maybe find out what your pace is.
You're subject to how that's done.
Right, well, yeah, because, this is my pace, we can figure that out, there are people that do that. And at 3 minutes, I'm ending. So if you send a dissertation, we're not gonna get through it all.
Yeah.
Right? If you send a research paper, we're not gonna get through it all. So you might as well just send the stats.
Yeah, but you run into the issue of someone saying you didn't get the same inflection I would have did or presented like I would have, and a video is so much better because you can say, I hate this place and I hate this place. It's a whole different attitude how you say it. If we give people opportunity to present videos themselves, and then that's something that we can, and that's why I was saying it's better to stream because that's than streaming. We can always record that and insert it into the video and edit it into that rather than trying to figure out a way to stream a input video live. We hear so much, we could do more in post processing.
Okay,
I'm open to it. I just want us again to be clear and upfront so that whoever is participating is clear about what the expectations are,
Right.
so that they'll have an idea about the outcome.
And
That's all that matters to me.
exactly, and I was saying, if we could give one really open avenue for that, so you could present an audio or video, you know,
Or written.
the written is, that's when you get into the, yeah, how long is the 3 minutes written? I don't
I
know.
think we give them a word count, like a limit there. We determine like whatever, like just, we look up whatever the average
Well,
speaking pace is. And then
how
say,
about before we get into what that would be, let's vote on what people are, which option they're in favor of, and then we can sort out.
Then we can move on from there to see if any of this
Right,
is even,
right. So if we were next month to bring this back as a policy for how we're going to move forward, those in favor of streaming it as a live, who gets to vote in this?
It's informal, but it would be the four trustees and including yourself as the voting board members.
Okay, all right. So we have streaming as a live broadcast, a recorded upload, or a combination of something that would be inclusive of public comment. Is that how to?
Right. I mean, and I'm not sure they're all mutually exclusive. I mean, we could technically live stream and post and allow public comment, right? I mean, we could do all of
Yeah.
those. Just a thought, maybe just kind of round robin this and ask each individual kind of
Okay.
what
All right.
their
Nancy?
thoughts are.
Recording.
Recorded, okay. Trustee King,
Yeah, I'm for what Brad just said, stream and record.
stream and record.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of the recording.
Okay. And I did talk to trustee McNett earlier today, and he is also in favor of, doing a broadcast of some type. He didn't obviously know about all of these different versions of it, so I don't know what his preference would be. As for myself, I would be in favor of recording it and sharing it online too.
So let me ask, so would that mean that when it went online, it wouldn't be alive?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
I would,
But no one is disadvantaged by that because they wouldn't be able to have an input anyway.
Right.
It would be someone just in viewing it anyway.
and that way we're able to ensure that everything was captured in the recording.
It gives us the most checks and balances on it before we put it out.
Mhm.
And it gives us the opportunity to insert, if we decide to take audio, video, too, it open us the most options.
Okay,
Except if somebody
Fail
couldn't
safe.
get their video or they didn't have access to do a video. And I think about people that have opinions but don't have videos or video technology, they don't have the knowledge to do that.
then they wouldn't have any of it.
Snail mail something.
Say that again?
They would, I mean, whether we stream it, record it or anything, their only option you're saying would be here in person?
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's obviously that option, always.
right. Well, it could be, or somebody who tries to do the video, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, but a person wouldn't be disadvantaged, but if they couldn't submit a video, they probably have equal difficulties viewing of it. They wouldn't be able to, from the streaming.
You could always come in here and watch
There would
it.
probably be ones that would show up there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I guess the idea is to be big tent without being difficult for us to provide it and that we can deliver a consistent product. because if we start changing it, that's something that's always that. So we want to be big tent, but like I say,
Okay, so it sounds like the majority are going with it being recorded. So that will dictate how we structure the policy, and we'll have that available at the next meeting.
Yeah, could I ask a point of clarification? I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. So we're saying it would be a in-person public comment format as opposed to other types of submission? That I just wanted, that was the point I wasn't clear on from the board.
Well, let me give you an example. JJ Webb, I don't know if you all saw his post on Facebook. He just had a challenge with his chair. And he had to go all the way to someplace because somebody else couldn't do it. Thankfully, they were able to do it. I never would think of that as being an inconvenience because I don't have a chair. Knock on wood today. So I think that in a situation like that, he might be disadvantaged in that he couldn't get here and he couldn't record a message because his chair doesn't work, which may mean that he's out getting a chair. So I think it's some disadvantage. Not that if it was only public comment, he wouldn't miss it anyway. But as you mentioned, it is 2021. So we have the capability of providing an option for people, whereas in the past we didn't. And so I think, as you mentioned, big tent, we can do it. The question is, will we do it? And, we think about the most case scenario instead of the least case scenario. And JJ would be the least case scenario, but he's still a member of our community and it's something that we can consider. That's all I'm saying. And I think that's worth considering because we can.
So can you clarify what it is that you would want to have?
Yeah, well, it doesn't change, a stream and a record. Because if he couldn't get here, but he was someplace where he could actually connect because he's going to get his chair fixed, this would offer that.
But also be able to have the ability to make a public comment.
Yes,
That's what you're suggesting.
yes. In the moment, right? He's on his way, but if he's got whatever in his car, he could do that or call in.
and how do we get those people online to sign in?
I just don't know if we have the manpower to manage.
That's what I,
Right.
that's what I,
Public comment, they have to be submitted, right, prior to the meeting?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so either way, if they were watching it, they wouldn't just randomly make a public comment, right?
right.
Okay, so it would be pre-thought out and they would plan for that. So I think there should be an avenue where they can
email.
make a email,
But that we just have
record
it,
their
yeah.
voice or whatever. And then still be able to watch the streaming or the recording later.
Okay, well, we differ.
And so
I'm not, I guess I'm not clear on if there's a consensus at this point on the submission of public comment.
I am not, and for my preference for public comment is to have a person physically present.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the way the city of DeKalb works.
And the school
the district. You have to be in person to make a public
I
comment.
thought with the city, as long as you submitted an hour before the meeting, and as long as there's no dissertation, that you can reasonably read someone's comment within 3
That
minutes.
with the new
then
administration, that is not the policy anymore.
It has changed,
I think, and that may have been a COVID thing.
perhaps, no, because I definitely know I have used that before.
So that's where I kind of, if the city of DeKalb, the largest community in this county, is doing it that way, and this poor little township that has drastically less resources, I don't know as if we have the capabilities or the need right now to take that on. I think that would be a lot of work. I think, again, it would take staff being here during a board meeting to, keep that in order, which is something we're trying to get away from. As we go back to the clerk doing the minutes, and things like that nature that we hadn't been doing for the last 6 months. I'll say I could be completely off with my calendar, but so I think that, and not having a vote in this, I just feel that for now, if you just did this, either the streaming or the recording and public comments stay in person, and, we can look at it in 3 to 4 months and see, or if,
And if any member of the public has a concern or a question, they can reach out to any trustee at any time, or to myself, or to any elected official.
I mean, we're here all day, every day.
It's not, people's engagement is not just reserved to public comment period of the meetings. They can do that, 7 days a week.
I don't question that. In fact, I have said to Mr. Shabbat, hey, people here all the time, why you wait till the meeting to come and blow it up? I think my concern and my position is honest access.
Mhm.
And I get your point, Craig, about having somebody to do it, but those comments usually take place at the beginning of the meeting. So it's not like that would take the whole meeting. The whole meeting wouldn't be a matter of people with their comments.
No, understandable.
Yeah, my biggest concern is that we offer something to them that we can't sustain. And
And I think that's what I'm getting at, is this something that we can,
could continue to do, and that was my concern about it. And what gives us the most flexibility is to say to record it and then post it, and then we can revisit it, because that gives us the most flexibility and with a decent amount of transparency.
Mhm.
I mean, no solution is going to be perfect. Someone won't have some access to something. And, but I said, what we do now represents the least amount of change and the least amount of strain on the resources that we have here.
and as we sit here right now, streaming
With no one
nobody
online.
watching us.
Exactly.
So, yes.
So,
Yeah, if we're on that TV, we're on you, we're out there. So that's what I'm getting at, is that.
Well, we don't stream
And
for comments. We stream for access.
exactly
We
right.
want people to have access.
And me and you have been here the longest, and I
Correct.
think we can count on one hand in the 8 years we've been in office,
How
how many public comments
Correct.
that we have had. And
To me, is more of a reason to say, why not stream? Because maybe if people saw it and it was live, they might feel more compelled to participate and get involved.
understandable, and we've been streaming for quite a while now
We have.
with very,
Though.
very few comments,
Even with recordings, in order to get more people involved, it has to be out there. So we need to get the Facebook page fixed.
Yeah.
We need to be able to put the recordings on there, like invite people and
Mhm.
get it out there. Honestly, I had no clue that half of this existed up until a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
So, and I'm 32.
Well, I didn't know until I knew, no doubt,
Right.
no
So, and then
doubt.
think of how many other people are like that. We need to get it out there so there is involvement.
Okay, so could we do this? Could we come back next month and with the policy that we're going to record and then post the meetings? And over time, if we start to get members of the public reaching out to us, expressing a desire to, be able to submit comments because they can't be here, and then we, modify the policy at that point.
I think until it's out there enough to where, like you said, you guys have been doing this for months and no one's watching. So until it's out there to where people know that it's happening, there's really no need for.
Okay, so is that
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I'm sorry if I want to be.
uncharted territory here?
So I think there's a wisdom in what you're sketching out, and it is your decision. I don't want to, steer the board. I think it needs to be a board policy decision here. But there is an internal risk of abuse with remote submissions, right? 100 people could collaborate to submit 100 written comments that would then have to be read, right? Not to say people can't come into a meeting and do that, but there is something of a bar to entry that somebody, you know, so there is that aspect. And I don't think I've ever known of a public body in which a member of the community has submitted a written comment saying, I am so sorry, I can't make the meeting for whatever reason. Disability related, work schedule reason. But I would appreciate if you read this comment during the meeting, in which one of the elected officials doesn't do that. So that would also be your discretion. You have trustee comments, you have supervisor's report. You would always have the ability to choose to do that if somebody reached out to you with a good cause.
Right, as we have when we've received thank you notes, we take the time and read those
Sure.
and share them. So, yeah, I think that, yeah, Craig just did. So there's nothing preventing any member of the public from reaching out to us prior to a meeting to share something. And that's part of our responsibilities as, elected officials to represent the public. So the opportunity to have someone's message conveyed can happen that way. Okay.
Yeah, and I think I think my next clerk's report is going to be me having the system done and making a short little presentation about what we might be voting on later. I think that might be a good use of my time there for next month.
I'm sorry, what?
So I know that we were saying we want the recording to be uploaded to Facebook, and we're thinking that we should have in-person public comments currently. So my next clerk's report will showcase how that recording process might work, and then that might clear up what is going on, because I think there might still be lingering confusion. Like just to show people tangibly what it looks like really quickly.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
yeah, but we're gonna be voting on this next month, the process, so, but then we can fine tune what mechanisms we want to use for the recorded videos.
And along those same lines, not like we need to dig in the hole deep for ourselves, but we have to ask whether we're gonna accept comments on Facebook and replies to videos and posts and stuff like that too. So that's all in the same vein, yeah.
Right.
So we have to make a decision about that.
Mary, I don't remember the training we took. I don't think we can block comments on.
No, we can't.
Yeah.
If the mechanism has, and different social media platforms do and do not allow this, it's an on-off switch. You're either allowing all public comment if the on switch is there, or if there's just simply no public comment activated, there could be no public comment as well. I know Facebook has its limitations on what can and can't be monitored in that way. But yeah, basically the rule is you can't be selective about comments. They're either, you take them all or you take none of them.
It's a binary decision.
What about when they do the most relevant comments? Some may have been,
You're still
Like a
accepting
Google
all
search.
comments.
Yeah.
You can't remove any of those comments.
but you don't have to post them all. They
That's
don't have to be.
That's just a setting on Facebook, most relevant. There's a drop-down menu and you either do all comments, most relevant or most recent. So it's not
three choices.
selectively.
So when you do most relevant, Facebook decides what's most relevant?
It's based on
That's
some
interesting.
algorithm.
Okay.
So, okay. We will bring that back as an action item next month then.
And then in the meantime, we can look and see what other townships do online, because they're open.
Right. Well, and there, Karen, isn't there an expense associated with Zoom that we would have to?
If we had another user, yeah, there would be another yearly, I think. It's 19 a month, and maybe they drop it down a bit if you do it by the year.
Okay. And so, we can't do anything that's cost prohibitive either. So we'll be doing some research and come back with a recommendation on next month on which platform to use.
Okay, so I have a question then. So all of this equipment that we bought, was outside of COVID? Like, was this like a COVID purchase?
I think COVID is what
Kind of,
prompted it.
this is something I'd been looking at for a long time. A lot for training and webinars for instance, tomorrow, me and the guys are doing a flagger training in here.
Okay,
You know, so that was a lot of it
Okay.
and different things of that nature. So, but, and also as well, it was like kind of hurry up now because COVID's here and we need to be able to Zoom.
yeah, I know we talked about it before. I'm just,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we didn't make a purchase because we had a pandemic. And now we think we're getting out of the pandemic
No, because I think Zoom,
and we got this purchase.
Yeah.
that's-
No, and
virtual meetings are here to stick around.
yeah.
Well, I would hope so, and I think that's great, actually.
right.
I think let's not go back to the old normal. And I think we have to kind of be mindful of that, and intentional is the word I think people use as we make decisions.
Exactly.
That we're not saying, okay,
Right.
scrap this now.
That's why we want
Yeah.
to use it and, yeah. Okay.
And I think we're gonna see this equipment being used as we move on a ton, excuse me.
Because TOI is very slowly getting back into in-person events, so we're still doing a lot through televi or, webinars and type things.
And most of that stuff is recorded as well. So, anyone can come and watch later after the fact, that's what TOI does. Their stuff is also recorded. So,
Okay, so now we need to adjourn our open session and we need to have a motion to go into executive session to discuss and review past closed meeting minutes as provided for in 5 ILCS 120/2 C21.
So moved.
Okay, I'll second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Absent. Trustee King,
Yes.
trustee Bredlow,
Yes.
trustee Thurman,
Yes.
and supervisor Hess.
Yes.
This is one absent, the motion passes.
Okay, so we are going to go into closed session. So anyone who's not, or executive. So, and if we could take maybe just a little brief recess.
no.
To eat and.
Thought you'd assume that, but I
Okay,
Oh, okay, yeah, I do.
all right.
So is it roll call done, calling the meeting to order, or, sorry?
So we need a motion to,
I'm sorry, Clerk Tillotson will just need to call roll to
Oh, okay.
reestablish our,
Yeah. So supervisor Hess,
yes,
myself, this is who's present, correct?
this is just roll call of the board. So the 4 individuals present.
Okay, trustee Bredlow,
Here.
trustee Thurman,
Here.
trustee King.
Here,
Mike Nutt's absent.
okay. So we're back in open session. Moving on, so item J is old business. We have no old business. Item K, other business. Our next regular board meeting is on August 11th at 6 p.m. And that would be it. So now we need a motion to adjourn. I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Roll call. Supervisor Hess,
Yes.
supervisor, or sorry, trustee Bredlow,
Here.
trustee King.
here. Yes.
Trustee McNair absent, and then trustee Thurman.
Yes.
Passes.
All right. Thank you. That's okay. 2.5 hours.
That was longer than last month.
Last month was ended at 7:23.
Wow, I thought that would have